Women are condemning men for remaining single.
The dating conversation is incredibly divisive. We have all been burned and we want someone to blame. But I hope that starting off this way will get us on the same page by feeling the same thing: disgust. Enough of it to leave all this madness behind.
Women are condemning men for remaining single. Yeah, they're pissed off, boys. And I called this years ago that women would condemn men for going their own way and start saying that men and women need to come back together and negotiate and work this thing out. Watch to the end of the video to fully understand why women are condemning men for remaining single or going their own way and the implications this is going to have on society. Today's video comes from Yasmin Barterlin. I have her channel linked in the description so you can go and check her out. And, she's discussing the subject about what's happening. We're going to jump in and then we'll talk about it a bit further.
The dating culture has never been more self destructively entertaining. We have emotionally volatile people on podcasts degrading their guests for their own self gratification. We have soft life girlies telling you how to dress, speak, and breathe elegantly to bag a provider man. We have alpha men flaunting their modern day harems of Instagram baddies to override their innate need for emotional connection to impress other men. We have dating apps commodifying romance while profiting from your failure to find it. We have high value dating coaches teaching you how to invest the least by getting the most out of the very person that you desire. We have trad wives influencing impressionable young women into traditional gender roles without disclosing the very common dangers of financial abuse. We have trend chasers claiming they want a traditional relationship without the resources, the values, or the skill set to qualify them for it. We have street interviewers giving immature, jaded clout chasers permission to feed into polarizing stereotypes for the sake of engagement. We have reality dating shows giving a platform to emotionally unavailable people, desensitizing us to unethical behavior by turning it into entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, we have adult entertainment programming men to dehumanize women by fetishizing misogyny. We have attractive young women weaponizing their appeal to desperate men for financial gain because a girl's gotta eat. We have manifestation content feeding your delusions about your specific person through hope beating you at your lowest, most vulnerable time.
I kind of just want to point out, guys, you know, and I don't know her personally. The things that she's saying makes sense. But anyone else notice that she's filming this video with tons of makeup on and just conveniently a very low cut shirt that shows off cleavage, as if this is not a YouTuber trick to attract male attention. So while she's virtue signaling here, and calling out women for some of the things that they're doing, there is no reason whatsoever why she would be presenting herself in this way. And people might say, "Oh, well, it's just very harmless." Are you going to really get upset because she's showing just a small amount of cleavage? But this is actually playing upon the male gaze, and I do want to call it out. There's literally no reason why someone has to put out a content like this and then show off and then show this off. I'm just being very, very honest. And it's not, again, I think that it's inappropriate. I'm definitely calling it out. Definitely calling it out.
We have aimless young men flocking to reclaim their masculinity through a counterculture of extreme ownership, ruthless self discipline, and conditional self worth at the expense of their capacity for intimacy. Why? Because they feel their lovability is dependent on their usefulness.
Okay, so here's something very interesting. A lot of men are basically saying that, hey, we're going to focus on ourselves and being the best version of ourselves. What ends up happening is that a lot of these men, when they wake up and realize they can do it all on their own, they conclude that I don't need anyone to help me. And, if I need someone, I'll pay them, but I rather my peace. And that basically puts women in a position where even if you do have a good woman, what can a good woman do for a man that can do everything for himself? It's like, and then someone will get absolutely petty about it, like, oh, and they'll get nasty about it. Can you be physically intimate with yourself? Can you do this yourself? Like, and when a woman starts getting nasty and starts saying, like, can a man be physically intimate with himself? Can he do this himself? Can he do his thing? that's when dudes like just start. That's basically signaling to men like, okay, so you're okay, so this is what you're about. You're gonna get really disrespectful. You're gonna get really nasty about this. Why would I even want to be in a relationship with someone like you? And when they say something like that, that's only validating why these men have walked away. So you have a situation where you don't just have men going their own way, or men who are choosing to be separate. So they want to live separate lives from relationships, dating, and society. So they're just basically like, leave us alone. Then you have the men walking away. Men walking away, they're not separatists, but they basically fall into a lifestyle where I can do it for myself. I don't need a wife. I don't need somebody. Not all of these guys, because there's some guys who get married. Men walking away is such a large community. There's some MGTOWs who are also men walking away, but not all men walking away are MGTOWs. Some of them are passport bros. Some of them are traditional. I despise the trad cons. I do not like the trad cons, but some trad cons are also MWAs. It's such a large community of men, and the thing is that you have also some MWAs who basically they don't do it deliberately, but that's just the life that they end up living regardless. They're like, well, life is hard for a man, and I'm gonna work on myself. I'm gonna work on my fitness. I'm gonna work on my finances. I'll work on my relationships, and then they get to a point where they don't need a woman. A woman cannot bring any actual value into their lives, regardless if they're married or not. They're not going to give up their independence. They're going to wake up every morning and prepare their coffee for themselves. They're going to do their meal prep and prepare their meals for the entire week themselves. They're not going to hand those tasks over to a woman. They're not, they're going to know exactly what they need to do. There's no reason to have her doing those things for them, so they can sit on the couch and be lazy. All right. They enjoy, in fact, doing those things helps keep them active. It helps keep their minds active. It helps keep them sharp, so that they have the skill sets to do these things, regardless if they're with her or not with her. What happens if they get a divorce? Oh, don't think like that. But you have to be realistic. What happens if she's not around and you no longer remember how to do these things? So these men are staying sharp. Regardless if a woman is in their life, they're still going to wash their own clothes. They're still going to prepare their own meals. They're still going to take care of themselves. They're still going to clean their homes themselves. Yes, clean their homes themselves. They're going to do their own laundry. They're going to change their own bedding. So when a man looks at these things, they're still going to be on top of their business. It's like when a man looks at it, he's like, well, it's like, for me, I'm taking on an employee that I don't even need. And what's the benefit of me doing this? I've learned how to be stoic. I've learned how to be alone. You come into this world alone, you leave this world alone. All right. That's the honest to goodness truth. You come in alone, you leave the world alone. And when you understand this concept, for a lot of guys, they're like, there's no reason for me to be in a relationship. I've tried that before, and there's just no value there. And when you consider how Western society is and the culture of Western society, it's like, yeah, I'm not looking for someone that has American cultural values. And even if I can find a good woman in America, I don't need her. I don't need her. Like what can she do for me that I cannot do for myself? I have self-control. I'm able to control my desire for relationships. I'm able to control my desire for physical intimacy. So it's not like a switch that you can flip on and flip off. Am I supposed to be like flip on this switch and now I'm supposed to want to be physically intimate with her? Or okay, well, we're gonna or are we supposed to do it like, well, physical intimacy is for the production of children? I don't want any children. I'm an uncle. I see how my brother suffers. I see how my father suffered. I don't want any kids. I have no desire for children. Or maybe I do, but when you look at the things the trade-offs, I just don't want that life. And no one should be able to tell me that you have to go and have children and sacrifice your life for the greater good, for women in society and for children, and who will just end up hating you for bringing them into a world. And it's like into a world the way that things are today. And people are like, that's just being very pessimistic. And you'll ask these people, well, are you going to pay for these kids? Are you going to take care of these kids? You're being a loser right now. How am I being a loser? I take care of myself. I don't have any debt. I own my home. I'm in excellent physical shape. I'm not taking anything from the healthcare system. I'm not dragging down the healthcare system. I'm not dragging down society. I pay my taxes, so I'm contributing to society in that way. I'm active, I provide value to other people. I'm not deliberately avoiding women or avoiding relationships. I'm just not interested. And then you'll have the Sims condemning you. All right, women and Sims condemning you. So it's one big game. And like I said, I'm not in any way attacking what's her name? What's her naming my name? Yasmin's content. She makes a lot of valid points, but a lot of it looks like virtue signaling. And the very like if you want to have a conversation with me, a serious conversation with me, you need to present yourself a certain way. And this video is basically being pushed at the male gaze. Like that low cut shirt right there, I'm gonna call it out. If you want to have a serious conversation with me, like for example, if we're gonna do business together, do not meet me and then have a low cut shirt, and because like no, you're obviously trying to woo me. Like no, that's the end of that business right there. That's the one. That's 100% the end of any business that we would possibly do together. You know. So I mean, guys, why women are the reason why women are condemning men for remaining single is because a lot of women are now going to find themselves having to work into old age. Many of them will not be able to work into old age. It's this generation of women, are less healthy. They have less. Their health is worse than women who were born 100 years ago. I've talked about this a number of times. They have a lower lifespan than women who were born 100 years ago. They have less well-being than women who were born 100 years ago. Their chances of surviving pregnancy and having a child are actually lower than women who were born 100 years ago. If people can't see that something substantially wrong here, so a lot of women are now basically saying, yeah, feminism got us everything that we wanted, but we're basically at the we're basically at a point where it's kind of things are going downhill. So now let's fight for one another together. And it's like, what are you talking about? Basically, they want to keep everything that women's empowerment got them, but they don't want to take any of the consequences that are going to come with those decisions. In other words, they got all the goodies up front, but now they're going to get all the bad stuff that comes along with saying that I want to be independent. I want to do all of these things on my own. But at the same time, they were having their lives subsidized by society because they were still young and attractive. Now that they are no longer in their prime, or they're aging out of their prime, and it's becoming harder to access those things, the simp economy is moving overseas, and they're realizing that old age is creeping up or middle age is creeping up. Now they're like, well, what am I going to do? I need to find a man to subsidize my living. And the dating market is thinning out. The very same women who said, do not approach me, are also in the same breath, literally in the same breath. They're like, yeah, do not approach me. Do not speak to me. Wonderful. Don't ever talk to me. Don't ever come anywhere near to me. But if you're not supposed to approach us anymore, guys, how do we approach you? And they cannot comprehend. In one breath, you're nasty and telling us to stay away from you. And in the next breath, you're asking, how can you approach us if you like us? Because it's about who you choose. And they don't get the average man does not want to be in a relationship with a woman whom he cannot approach. Men don't want to be in relationships with people who are not approachable. If you are not someone that the average man can walk up to and have a conversation with, okay, then you're not going to be someone that the average man wants to have a relationship with. Oh, I like you, so I can come and get you. I can come and speak to you, and oh, look at this. I chose you. I choose you until I no longer choose you. No one wants something like that. And of course, women don't comprehend this. If you replace men with women, and you said, well, imagine if you were treating a woman like this. Like, why would a woman want to be your friend if you're a person that she could not approach? And the natural response for most women now will be, that's, we're talking, men and women are something completely different. In other words, the way that they would treat a woman, they believe they don't have to treat a man. They don't view us as human beings. They don't think that we should be treated equally to women. There's a specific way that women should be treated, and there's a specific way that men should be treated. Okay? And that's just what it means to be a man. To suffer, to sacrifice, to accept being treated poorly. What poor treatment for what you would call poor treatment for a man is just normal treatment for poor treatment for a woman would be, for example, if you treated a woman this way, that society would balk at you. If one woman treated another woman this way, society would balk at them. But if they treat men this way, it's just normal, and it's a natural part of being a man. And men need to learn how to take it and accept it. Guys, it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And it infuriates me 100% when I consider these things. So it's no wonder that you have women who are condemning men for remaining single, because they're realizing, hey, you're your stack of cash is walking away, your future is walking away, your nest egg is walking away. All right, because you're gonna have to do it on your own. Either it's gonna be you, just all from you, or from the state, or you and the state. But you're not. The simp economy is moving overseas. Good men are like, yeah, we're done with this. And I called it years ago that women would say feminism got us everything we wanted. Now let's fight for one another. It used to be fight it together, but but now I'm just rebranding as fight for one another, because it's basically the same crap, same exact crap. Feminism got us everything we wanted. Now let's fight for one another. In other words, it got you everything that you wanted, and now it can't get. Now it's reached a point where it can no longer benefit you entirely. So now you're trying to run back to a world of traditionalism, but not traditionalism. In other words, you want men who are traditional, but you don't want to be traditional women. Women are demanding, guys, think about it. Women are demanding traditionalism, but they are also telling you they will not be traditional women. So they want men to do all the traditional things that men previously did for women, and then they don't want to be traditional women, and they want men to do the non-traditional roles as well. So they want traditional men who will also engage in non-traditional roles, while they are now modern women. What kind of only a simp would agree to this? Only a simp would agree to this and promote this. Guys, the future is that a lot of women are going to find themselves in poverty, struggling with homelessness, struggling with finances. It's obvious, because with this hyperinflation, women were not designed to live without a husband. It's the truth. They were not designed to live without a husband. They were not designed to be completely independent of the family unit. This is not me saying that all women should have to get married or be forced into marriage or motherhood. I completely don't believe that. I think if women don't want to have children, if they don't want to be married, they don't want to be a part of the family unit, or have established their own family unit, I 100% respect that and believe that their request should be respected and what they want should be respected. But at the same time, if they choose that for themselves, then they should understand that there are consequences. So they need to plan ahead for old age. They need to plan ahead for retirement. They should not expect the government to be able to subsidize everything for them. If you don't have a husband to depend on, you're going to have to carry all of that weight on your own. You're going to have to, you're not going to have, you won't have children that maybe be there for you when you're older. So you're going to have to plan for that. And, don't expect that men are going to just contribute. Men in society are going to say, oh, well, there are women we're all brothers and sisters. This is something that some women came to my channel and said that we're brothers and sisters. I love you, my brothers. I love you, my sisters. We need to help one another. All right. Women shouldn't have to get married or have children. And I agreed with her. But yeah, but if you go down that path, and, then you would need to turn to the state. You need to turn to the state, or look to yourself to provide for yourself. You're an adult, all right? You cannot expect random men to basically come out and say we're a community and we're going to start giving women money and subsidizing their living because we're brothers and sisters. And when I said this to her, she said that I showed my true colors and called me a predator. How is me saying that, well, if you're independent, you're going to have to take care of yourself, or you're going to have to turn to the state to help you, because we're adults. And I agree that you should live your life however you choose to live it, but you're going to have to do it all on your own, or you're going to have the state support you. But you cannot expect men to subsidize your living. Like, just come out and say that men are going to come out and give their money to women and find ways to subsidize the living of women because they're brothers and sisters. It doesn't work like that. And then they lashed out at me. The Sisterhood came after me because I said, listen, hey guys, you do you. I respect you guys. Live your best lives. But understand, I'm taking care of myself. I have my own bills to pay. All right. That's how most men are right now. You have to be an adult, sweetie. You have to learn how to take care of yourself, how to provide for yourself. How, and if you need it, if you need additional assistance, you're gonna have to turn to the state to subsidize your living. But random men aren't gonna do it for you. And she freaked out on me. And that's the sisterhood right now. A lot of women in the sisterhood. And don't let them lie to you and tell you the sisterhood is not real. The sisterhood is absolutely real. Okay, the brotherhood is there's no brotherhood. There are clusters of men that choose to call one another brother, but there is no brotherhood. The sisterhood, on the other hand, is very, very real. Even if they don't like one another, they're still a part of that club. And the club has always been about power and control and dominance of men in society. And now that it's reached a breaking point and it's no longer getting them the results that they want to keep all of the power and privilege that they've gained, but they do not want to take any of the responsibility, accountability, and the consequences that are coming along with it. And as a result, many women will find themselves struggling with destitution, poverty, homelessness, having to live in shelters, their cars, and on the streets and even in the woods because no one can afford these prices right now with hyperinflation all around the world. I thought it was only in the United States. No, Australia is a mad place. Australia is insane. Canada, it's like $1 million properties in Canada. Even in the United Kingdom, food prices are insane. Like it's all over. It's all around the world right now, except for like developing countries are faring a lot better. But in terms of modernized countries, first world countries, it's a living nightmare. And women in these countries are going to be struggling a lot, and a lot of them are going to find themselves living the way that women in third world countries live, except even worse because they will not have a family unit to rely on. Women in a lot of developing countries, what keeps them going, like for example in the Philippines, the center of a Filipina's life is her family. It's her family, all right? Because they know they're raised to understand that even when you lose, like when you have nothing, you will always have your family, and it will be your family that takes care of you. In fact, Filipino law is centered around the notion that if you have if you have money, like you're doing well in life, you've got plenty of money, you're doing very well, you should take you're responsible for your family, and your family can even sue you. For example, if you like, there's a channel, the Filipina P. The Filipina P is making bread. She's making tons of money. I'm looking at her channel's analytics, her patrons. This girl's making over $100,000 a year, based on my calculations. I think it may even be a couple $100,000. And and she basically had this lawyer on named Gracie, and she was talking with Gracie about a variety of different things, laws in the Philippines, I believe. And I think Gracie basically said to her, like for example, her family could take her to court and force her to pay for their education, like her brothers and sisters. I know she has a brother, can take her siblings can take her to court and force her to pay for their education, in housing, the things that they would need for survival. Her parents could take her if her parents are are destitute, they could take her to court and force her to provide, housing for them, you know, the basic necessities for survival, food, shelter, clothing, and so forth. And that's because it's ingrained in their society. Even in China, even if your parents abandon you in China, China will force you as an adult child to take responsibility for your parents and to subsidize their living. They can take you to court even if you are estranged from your parents. Your parents kicked you out when you were a kid. They can take you to court as an adult. You didn't see your parents in 30 years, or let's say you haven't seen your parents in 40 years. You haven't seen your parents in 40 years. They kicked you out when you were 15 years old, and now you're 55. You haven't seen them in 40 years, and now you're living your life. You have your family, and your parents are destitute. They can take you to court, and the Chinese government will force you to pay for their living, to pay for food and shelter, make sure that they have a roof over their head, that they have food, that they have everything that they need. This is how it operates in a lot of countries, but in the United States, they do not have such a system. In most developed Western countries, first world countries, they do not have such a system. It's all about you. You have to take care of yourself, or you're screwed. So this is the results of the dissolution of the family unit, and women do not have that anymore. So they're going to be facing extraordinary consequences as a result, as we've outlined. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to our newsletter for my personal thoughts, insights, and a free copy of my ebook, The Blueprint for Escaping the Rat Race. Click the link in the description to get your free copy. Guys, what do you think regarding all of this? Women are condemning men for remaining single. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.